Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Wanted to come to you this Saturday morning with a Friday Reads, give you a weekly update on how life's going and how my reading life is going. And I had a fairly productive week in my reading, and so I wanted to share that with you. But we'll start with how things are going. For the last week and a half, we had been working on election stuff at school and studying the different parties and all the different issues, and I think that was a pretty productive time in the classroom, and I'm really glad that we went ahead and went through that. And we followed the election process, and we've been doing kind of daily updates as the week goes. And I told the kids right off the get-go that it was going to be a close one, and it certainly was. And I told them that it was probably going to be contested one way or the other, and here we are. So anyway, who knows how that's all going to end. I just hope it doesn't last too long. I hope we can figure things out without any fighting. Anyway, we did that at school. I was, like I said, pretty happy about that. And now we're back into learning some regular ed stuff. And we've also got boys basketball started. We just completed our second week of practice. I think I forgot to mention that last week on Friday Reads, but we just completed our second week of practice, and things are looking pretty good. And I know we've got a ways to go, but I mean that's how it is at the beginning of the season. And we're gonna get a test on where we're at exactly, because our first game's next Thursday, and so we hope to put together a good game for 4 quarters, and hopefully everything turns out all right. So we'll see how that goes. I think I shared with you last week, my daughter got her senior pictures. Bittersweet moment, you're glad to see her grow up, but at the same time it's sad because she's going to be leaving. And so we got those pictures back yesterday, I think it was. We got the edited copies and stuff like that from the photographer, and man, they're pretty good. We've got to do the ordering and figure out which ones we want, kind of narrow things down, because things like that are costly, but there are some good pictures in there. And of course, I've shared with you before, my daughter's pretty musically talented, and she loves playing her guitar, and she got several pictures in her with her guitar, and did some at the coffee house because she loves coffee, and so she did some at the coffee house, and they just turned out very, very good, and pretty pumped about that. And now we just got to get some family pictures done sometime in the near future. We haven't had any since my 3-year-old was, how old was she? She was maybe about a year old. So we haven't done any official family photos. So we got to get that done before my one daughter is out of the house, and before the other one's sold, that we miss the stages. So anyway, let's talk about my reading life. So a couple of these I've been talking about for a while, and it's just kind of a continuation. I'm still, each night, if I'm not falling asleep, I'm reading John Grisham's Sycamore Row. I'm going to end up doing a book review on this, and then I'll get to his new book, and I'll do a book review on it, and then probably a whole, a review of all 3 of the Jake Bridges novels. But it's pretty good. It's about an older man who dies. He had cancer. He had gotten rich. He didn't have very many friends around the county. Matter of fact, a lot of people just didn't like him. He was kind of standoffish, and his kids had not been to visit him. His grandkids had not been to visit him in like several years. And he writes a last-minute will, cuts them all out of the will, leaves his money to his housekeeper, and he ends up hanging himself the next day. And it leads to a lot of controversy in this small town, and gets into small town politics. And then there's a fight over the will, because he had made an earlier will. So there's a contest about which will is going to be received, and so that's where I'm at in the book. And it is a pretty good story. I've been reading at school for my SSR. I've been reading In the Heart of the Sea, and this is going to take me a while just because, you know, the amount of time that we have for our SSR is not like super long, so I'm not taking out huge chunks of the book, but I did get the first chapter read, and I'm into the second chapter. Nathaniel Philbrick has talked about what it's like just to be at Nantucket, and they're getting ready to, they have loaded the ship Essex, and they're getting ready to go off on their voyage, and so we'll see how that all plays out. He's been talking about men versus women, and what's life like for the women back home when the men leave. And then this last part, yesterday when I was reading in my SSR, the last part was talking about the socioeconomic status of the different people that work on the whale ship, and whites versus African Americans working on that, older experienced seamen versus young new recruits, and it's pretty interesting. It's an area of history I've never really read about, so I'm learning quite a bit, and I'm enjoying it. And Nathaniel Philbrick's just a very, very good author. The other big book that I've been working on, because I did not get to The Witches by Stacy Schiff this week. I kind of put that down. I thought I was going to finish it, and I ended up putting it down, and I got going with my buddy read with Arion over at Book Zealots. We're reading Einstein, His Life and Universe, and very interesting book. We're doing the buddy read, and we're communicating through Voxer, and I left her a message this morning that I've never read anything on Einstein, so this is all brand new to me, and I got to tell you, the stuff that he worked in is way, way over my head. Makes me feel like I should be in kindergarten again. It's just pretty heady stuff, and it's been an interesting read. I did not know much about Einstein, his married life and his kids, and he had a kid that he gave up for adoption, and then he had gotten divorced with the first wife, and it's just I'm to the point in the book. It's, I think, 1905, and I'm through the first 5 chapters, and the 5th chapter was talking about the year 1905 and all the major discoveries he made in science. And Isaacson is just a wonderful writer. I would recommend Isaacson to anybody. So far, I would recommend this book. I would recommend Isaacson's other book, Benjamin Franklin, An American Life. Excellent, excellent biography, in my opinion. Pretty easy to read and easy to understand. And as I've been reading this, he's been doing a very good job of taking some very complicated science stuff, physics and stuff, and stuff like that, upper end math, and he's been putting it to where even a caveman can understand it. Well, not really. He is putting it on a level where it's halfway understandable. You don't necessarily have to know the science to just get the gist of what's going on, and so he's done a great job with that, and it's a pretty fast-paced book for the most part. And I am, like I said, the first 5 chapters and like 106 pages in, so I've got a good start on it. I definitely will finish the book, but it's going to be, my overall goal was to read about a chapter a day, and I'm already a couple chapters behind because earlier this week I had a couple mornings where I blame it on the stupid election. That's what I'm blaming it on, because it was on my mind and swirling in my brain, and I literally looked at this book. I opened it, stared at the page for 5-10 minutes, and then didn't get anywhere. I just stared at it, and I tried to read it, and I couldn't get anywhere because my mind was just spinning in circles, and my anxiety was running high with everything with the elections. I stayed up pretty late Tuesday night watching everything, and then just trying to follow everything without getting super worked up. I told my kids, this is the message I gave my kids, is guys, no matter who wins, the sun will come up tomorrow and the world will continue to rotate. and revolve around the sun. It is not going to end the world. I was trying to, because I had a lot of kids who their anxiety levels were through the roof, super nervous, one way or the other with the election. And of course, as a teacher, I'm trying to stay neutral with everything. And I almost made it my mission just to try to calm people down. And we've got to learn to work together. We've got to learn to, research these issues without fighting about these issues. And, there's a place for good discussion, and that's what needs to happen. Discussion, not arguments. And anyway, so I'm kind of rambling a bit, but I blame the election for not being where I should be. So I gotta read a couple more chapters today, or maybe one today and an extra one tomorrow to kind of get caught up in this book so that I hit my goal. I know Ariane over at Book Zealots is, she had mentioned to me, if we need to, if it needs to roll into December, that's okay. But I kind of want to try to get it done in November for Nonfiction November. That was one of my big reads for that. So anyway, and then the other book that I did get done, because I had a little bit of downtime at school. The kids were doing web research on the election and reading up on the candidates' pages and where they stood on the issues. And I was kind of an innocent bystander, standing back and kind of guiding and listening and explaining, some of the stuff. They're middle school kids, so some of the stuff's over their head. They don't understand it. And so I'm giving, just some instruction on what different words mean and what different issues are. And there was a little bit of downtime as they're doing their research. And of course, we did this in all my classes. So I had some time to read this book that I'd had on my desk. May have been a month and a half ago. I can't even remember when it was, but it was the last book in Jason Reynolds' track series. It was a 4-book series called Lou, and it had been sitting on my desk. I'd left it there, and I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I need to return this to the library because there might be a kid wanting to read it. But I put it on my desk at school, and it sat there. And then this last week, as we were researching stuff, I went ahead and just picked it up and read when there was a little bit of downtime. And sure enough, got it read. It was a very fast read. It was 218 pages. And, it's a middle school book, big font, well spaced on the page and everything. So it was a very quick read. It's fiction. But it's about this boy named Lou, and he becomes one of the leaders on his track team, but he's going through life's ups and downs, so to speak. And I'm going to do a book review on this, so I don't want to tell you too much because that's going to be my next video, is a book review over this book, Lou, by Jason Reynolds. But Lou goes through life's ups and downs, and he's being supported by the adults around him, his coach and his assistant coach, his mom, his dad, and some other people, his friend group. He's got a strong friend group, and I want to tell you about in that book review, some of those issues he faces, because Jason Reynolds, man, he hit a home run with this series in just tackling issues that kids face in the world today. And especially, the book was really especially aimed at the African American community. And that doesn't mean it's just for African Americans. Every American could pick this book up and take something from it. And it could be middle school age kids and adults. I would recommend this book to anybody. That he hit a home run with this series, hitting these big events or these big tragic events that kids face that they don't know how to deal with. These emotional, stressful things that happen, especially during, the middle school puberty. And, if puberty wasn't bad enough, and then we get all these events of life, and he just did good. And so I'm going to give a book review on that. Be looking forward to that. Well, anyway, I think I've probably rambled long enough on this Friday Reads. Thank you, BookTube, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you to all the new subscribers. I appreciate that. Please leave comments down below. And until next time, BookTube, happy reading.